In March 1909, something with teeth like straws dropped a bloodless corpse on a Maryland hillside. The Valley Register reported the victim's jugular had been torn open and drained completely. Frederick County went into total lockdown. The Smithsonian offered a bounty for its hide, and President Teddy Roosevelt, a man known for some pretty wild hunting expeditions, considered postponing international diplomacy to track down whatever the hell did this. They called it the Snallygaster, and this is its story. I'm Uncle Perry. I don't just tell stories, I dig up the fucked up ones most folks are too chicken shit to talk about, and I do it in a cavalier kind of way. From cryptids and government secrets to UFOs and aliens, I chase down the truth behind the legends. Today, we're ripping into Maryland's half-bird, half-reptile nightmare, the tentacled, blood-sucking Snallygaster that terrorized 2 Maryland counties for nearly a century. Y'all ready to tear it up? Let's get it! Alright, y'all. These are the sightings that turned Maryland into a goddamn monster zone. We're talking twisted-looking tracks, blood-sucking swoops, and shit that had folks barricading their barns. This ain't some fairy tale bullshit. It's the raw, fucked-up timeline straight from the archives. Let's dive in chronological. The Early Whispers, Franklin County, Maryland, 1902. Way back in 1902, shit got weird in Franklin County, right on that sketchy Maryland-Pennsylvania border. Folks spotted a rash of mysterious tracks carving up the snow and mud, tweaking out the locals. These weren't your average deer prints. They screamed something unnatural, blending old German immigrant folklore with cross-border panic reports before anyone slapped the Snallygaster label on this feathered freak. No full-on attacks, yet, but just enough eerie footprints to make hardy farmers lock their doors early. That quiet dread is simmered for 7 years. Middletown Valley, Maryland, February 12, 1909. That evening, the fog was thick as hell, rolling in from South Mountain. Local farmhand Bill Gifferson was walking home along a snow-covered dirt road after a long day tending livestock when he hears a faint whistle. Then, a huge rush of wind. Out of the dark drops this winged nightmare. 20-foot wings blotting out the stars. Steel claws dig into his shoulders. Gifferson gets yanked off the ground, lifted toward a nearby hill. Tentacles from its mouth wrap around his arms and legs like fucking cables, while its metallic beak rips into his neck, puncturing veins and draining his blood like a goddamn vampire. Struggling, he fights back, but the monster is relentless. Then, it dumps his half-dead ass on a hillside. Later on, neighbors find him weak, dazed, and carved up with nasty-looking deep gashes. Gifferson described the monster as having enormous wings, a long, pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and one big-ass eye right in the center of its forehead. It screeched like a locomotive whistle that made your blood freeze. 3-toed tracks, 18 inches long, led from the ravine straight to a cave entrance in the mountains. Gifferson carried the scars for the rest of his life and swore this shit was 100% real until he died in 1925. The Valley Register ran a headline screaming about the blood-sucking beast that came straight out of a Catoctin mountain lair. The story spread like wildfire. Curfews hit. Armed patrols rolled out. People were scared shitless. Oh, and just days earlier, the same damn thing had already been spotted sleeping near a brick-burning kiln outside Cumberland. Dude poked it. It woke up, pissed off, let out a blood-curdling scream, and flew the fuck off. Then it started popping up near Hagerstown, down at Lover's Leap, south of Middletown, and flying over the mountains between Gapland and Burkittsville, where it dropped a massive egg. Emmitsburg, Maryland, March 5th, 1909. This is the night the 1909 wave went full batshit insane. Panic crested at the Emmitsburg train depot when 3 railroad workers, Ed Brown, Dan Shorb, and Bill Snyder, finished their shift. Moonlight hits, and they spot the fucker. These burly Irish bastards grab picks, shovels, and lanterns and charge the 12-foot dragon-esque horror show. The Snallygaster lashes back with tentacles, rips Shorb's arm open. Its claws shredded small trees. The beast lets out a locomotive whistle sound that bounces across the fields. The fight unbelievably drags on for a brutal 90 minutes. Deputy Norman Hoke shows up, unloads his revolver into it, but the bullets bounced off the scales like hail on tin. They finally drive the thing off, chasing it straight into the woods of Carroll County. All 4 men are scratched to hell, clothes torn, bleeding in multiple spots. Pretty well fucked up. The Frederick Evening Post splashed it everywhere. Multiple witnesses. No bullshit. That same month, the hype goes through the roof. The Smithsonian Institution slaps a $1,300 bounty, that's over $40,000 in today's money, for anyone who can bring them the Snallygaster's hide. Several organized hunts with dogs, traps, and lanterns sweep South Mountain. It's knuckin' futs. Word drops that badass President Teddy Roosevelt is legit thinking about postponing his diplomacy trip to go bag this fucker himself. Somewhere in the middle of all this mayhem, a report drops of a guy stumbling on the Snallygaster gulping down a 100-gallon tub of water. Things go totally Twilight Zone, and the creature looks up and says, clear as day, "My, I'm dry. I haven't had a good drink since I was killed in the Battle of Chickamauga." Yeah, we're talking Civil War ghost dragon. People 100% ate that shit up. A dude in Casstown, Ohio, sends a letter to the Valley Register swearing the same screeching monster, 2 enormous wings, horny head, 20-foot wingspan, just buzzed his town and kept heading east. By April, the beast migrated west and south, almost snatched a woman near Scrabble, West Virginia, roosted in a farmer's barn, and dropped a barrel-sized egg near Sharpsburg. I've had those days myself. The madness drags on until July, when a final dispatch from the Valley Register described a scientific expedition to discover the nocturnal monster's lair. It eventually erupted from the ground and flew off to Virginia. After that night in Emmitsburg, there were no more sightings for the next 23 years. South Mountain, Washington County, November 18, 1932. After years of dead fucking silence, like a good zombie flick, the Snallygaster crawled back out of the grave. On November 18, 1932, the Valley Register lit the fuse again. A hatchling Snallygaster terrorizing the South Mountain area. They did the math and figured the original 1909 monster lived around 20 years. So this had to be its kid. The son of Snallygaster was terrorizing the exact same ridges in Washington County. People below the mountain reported a shape-shifting, aircraft-sized beast ripping through the sky, tentacles whipping like ropes in a hurricane. The same freak show, just bigger, meaner, and riding the wave of Prohibition-era paranoia. Folks were already pretty fucking jumpy about revenuers and moonshiners. Now they had a tentacled dragon to top it off. The legend was officially back from the dead, and it was pissed. Braddock Heights, Maryland, November 23, 1932. 5 days after the South Mountain revival, this dickhead got personal. At dawn on November 23rd, respected Middletown ice cream maker and church deacon Charles F. Main is driving his horse-drawn wagon back from Frederick. Truck driver Edward Leiter is right there with him. The road cuts through misty pine groves when the horse freaks the fuck out and bucks at a low-flying shadow. Charles pulls hard on the reins. 25 feet overhead, this 10-foot scaly tormentor buzzes them like a crop duster from hell. Wriggling tentacles hanging from its jaws, single glowing blood-red eye locked on them, metallic beak glinting, wings beating the air hard enough to shake the wagon. It lets loose a screech like a goddamn steam engine, banks south, and vanishes east of Braddock Heights. Charles, a sober, no bullshit kind of guy with zero history of tall tales, sketches the thing on the spot for the Hagerstown Morning Herald. Edward backs every word completely. A week later, 2 other residents report the exact same low flyover, matching the descriptions from before. That one credible sighting lit the fuse. Vanished pets got blamed for it. Farmers formed armed posses. Weird feathers and slime trails started turning up. With Prohibition in full swing, some folks whispered that the moonshiners were pumping the rumors to keep the revenuers the hell away. Braddock Heights just proved the offspring of the 1909 eggs theory was alive and flapping. The panic was officially in full swing again. Burkittsville, Maryland, November 25, 1932. Then, just 2 days after the Braddock Heights encounter, the damn thing decided to drop a souvenir. Farmer Elias Harmon and his crew near Burkittsville are out chopping wood when the Snallygaster comes in hot, swooping low over the village rooftops like it owns the sky. It circles once, dives into a brushy hollow, and unloads a massive leathery egg, blue-veined, roughly the size of a wash tub and tipping the scales at about 50 pounds. They poke the thing with sticks. It's as tough as rawhide and pulsing like it's breathing. By the next morning, the whole goddamn egg has melted into a puddle of stinking, iridescent slime. Nasty. Nothing left but the smell and a circle of scorched grass. Local papers mocking it came up with a one-off joke and slapped the name Bovolopus Snallygaster on it. Regardless, that egg was all the proof anyone needed. The 1909 monster had obviously bred, and now its kid was creating its own nightmares. Burkittsville just went from quiet farm town to ground zero for cryptid encounters. Frog Hollow, Washington County, December 2nd, 1932. This is how the 1932 comeback ended. Drunk, drowned, and blown to hell. Some anonymous moonshiner up in Frog Hollow is running a monster-sized 2,500-gallon still when the Snallygaster gets a whiff of the mash fumes. The thing dives straight in like it's chasing the world's biggest shot of white lightning. Fumes hit it hard. The beast crashes beak first into the vat, thrashes once, and drowns in boiling backwoods hooch. There are worse ways to go. Revenue agents roll up fast. They find the bloated carcass floating in the liquor. decide that nobody needs to see proof of a dragon, and dynamite the whole goddamn setup. Still, moonshine, bones, and body. Nothing was left but smoke, a crater, the smell of burnt chicken, and one hell of a hangover story. The Valley Register ran with it. The Snallygaster finally met its end courtesy of Prohibition's finest. After the Burkittsville egg, the Braddock Heights buzz job, and all the missing pets, Frog Hollow was an absolute mic drop. Dead in a vat of illegal whiskey and blown to pieces by the feds. You couldn't write a better ending if you tried. Westminster, Maryland, 1948. 16 years after the moonshine explosion, in what must have been another Snallygaster, pulled a flyby just to remind everybody it never really died. One lone report out of Westminster. On a clear night, the thing came in high and silent. A dark, winged silhouette cutting straight over the church spires in the middle of town. No dive bomb, no screeches, no blood. Just a slow, deliberate pass that had people staring up with their mouths open. Post-WW2 skies were already full of weird shit. Test planes, early UFO flaps, weather balloons. But Carroll County didn't give a damn about explanations. To them, it was the return of the Snallygaster back for a victory lap. One quick soar over the steeples and then gone again. Brief as hell, but enough to keep the legend breathing. Chesapeake Bay, Maryland, 2002. 70 years after the moonshine bath, the Snallygaster decided to flex on the 21st century. A professional pilot, John H., is cruising at 5,000 feet in broad daylight over Chesapeake Bay near Annapolis. Clear skies, zero traffic, then bam! Dead ahead, a 25-foot winged reptile with a scaly body and tentacles trailing off it like a bullwhip. The thing banks hard, beak snapping, single eye flashing in the sun. The pilot yanks the yoke to avoid collision, snaps a couple of blurry photos in the banking silhouette before it peels off south and vanishes. Aviation logs record the near miss. The details on the monster line up creepy perfect with the old 1909 to 1932 descriptions. Reptile bird hybrid, tentacles coming from its mouth, the whole shit show package. Official word calls it a drone, a weird flock of birds, or swamp gas. Crypto circles call bullshit. A pro pilot with nothing to gain and everything to lose doesn't file fake reports. Whatever he saw at 5,000 feet wasn't supposed to exist, but it damn sure echoed every Snallygaster story Maryland ever told. And just like that, 100 years after Bill Gifferson got his throat ripped open, the bastard was still out there. Newspaper circulation hoaxes, 1909 and 1932. Editors in Frederick and Washington counties were straight up printing fan fiction. George C. Roderick at the Valley Register claimed years later that he made up the whole 1909 run-up to beat his rival papers. Supposedly, it was the same story in 1932. Depression hit hard. Subscriptions were tanking, so they dusted off the dragon, added eggs and moonshine, and watched the cash roll in. Fake attacks, fake Smithsonian rewards, fake Teddy Roosevelt interest, allegedly. Every juicy detail was invented for clicks before clicks were a thing. Mass hysteria triggered by the Jersey Devil panic, January 1909. The Jersey Devil had half the East Coast seeing hoof prints in the snow. Schools closed. Militias formed. 2 weeks later, Maryland newspapers that were syndicating Jersey Devil stories suddenly discovered their own local dragon. Same formula, same accent. People were already jumpy as fuck. Maryland editors just swapped Kangaroo Devil for German Vampire Dragon and let the same hysteria do the heavy lifting. Misidentified large birds. Turkey vultures have 7 to 9 foot wingspans, naked redheads, giggity, and rock back and forth when they soar. From below, they look like a scaly, one-eyed demon with tentacles. They also hiss and vomit when threatened. It sounds like a Snallygaster to a farmer who had just heard the latest Snallygaster story. Sandhill cranes scream like banshees and fly with their necks straight out. I think they sound like pterodactyls myself. Big herons in fog? Same deal. Once one person yells, "Monster!" every normal bird turns into the beast. Blimps and early aircraft during the 1932 revival. 1932 was the year of the giant flying cigars. USS Akron and USS Macon, 785-foot Navy Zeppelins, were cruising up and down the East Coast nonstop. Farmers who'd never seen one before look up and see those long, swinging mooring lines, trapeze wires, and engine pods underneath look exactly like a Zeppelin-sized monster with tentacles. Moonshiners used the legend to keep the feds away. Mountain stills were hidden in the exact same hollows where the Snallygaster lived. Weird lights at night? That's the fire under the still. Strange smells? Fermenting mash. Random explosions? Recipe gone wrong. Blame it on the dragon, and no revenue agents want to hike up there in the dark. The Frog Hollow death in a 2,500-gallon vat was the ultimate moonshiner middle finger. It killed 2 birds with one explosion. They got rid of the evidence and the monster in one giant boom. That would likely only work one time, though. Weather balloons and searchlight reflections. 1948 Westminster flyover happened right when military bases were launching giant skyhook balloons and playing with radar-guided searchlights. A beam hits a balloon or low cloud at the right angle and you get a silent, glowing shape cruising over the steeples. Same shit people called UFOs 5 years later, except in Carroll County they called it the Snallygaster. Mangy barn owls or great horned owls. Take a barn owl with feather loss or a great horned owl that's been in a fight. Huge saucer eyes glowing in headlights. Ear tufts like horns. 5-foot wingspan, silent as death, and a scream that sounds like a woman getting murdered. At night, in the fog, it's a one-eyed, tentacled nightmare. Add the Snallygaster story already in your head, and confirmation bias does the rest. The Uncle Perry connection. Now, this just completely blew my fucking mind when I found it. During the 1932 resurgence of the legend, a paper called The News in Frederick went so far as to connect the Snallygaster to another urban legend, Uncle Perry. According to a story well known among older locals, a janitor at the University of Maryland's medical department was told that he would be paid $15 for each body that could be used in the anatomy lab. According to the lore, the greedy Uncle Perry began a career of murder and body snatching. While the story persisted, the newspaper continued, "None but a boldly venturesome person dared to risk his body out of the house after sundown." During the time this story prevailed, the streets of Frederick were clear of hundreds who usually were seen walking around. "The Uncle Perry legend," the paper continued, "has the earmarks of the Snallygaster tale." But that wasn't the only voice in the gallery. The believers had their own explanations. Here's the rundown of what the diehards actually believe, straight from their mouths, no filter. Surviving pterosaur, the most popular. The hardcore crypto crowd says it's a late surviving Quetzalcoatlus, or some cousin that never went extinct. It hid out in Appalachian caves for 66 million years. The 14 to 20 foot wingspans, long beak, wings with claws, and the straight-up reptilian look Charles Maine sketched in 1932, and what the 2002 Chesapeake Bay pilot saw at 5,000 feet, dead-on match for a pterosaur. That's their smoking gun. Thunderbird, Native American spirit beast. Old-timers in Frederick and Washington counties said it was a thunderbird from regional Native American lore. A giant, storm-bringing bird that snatched people and livestock with blood-curdling screams and wings whipping up windstorms. While the Piasa bird, a fearsome winged monster from Illinois legends painted on Mississippi River bluffs in Illinois, was sometimes blamed in broader folklore comparisons. The core connection drew from Algonquian and Lenape myths of massive birds like the Anemaki, which controlled thunder and preyed on the unwary. Same mountains, same predatory stories, just new white witnesses blending immigrant tales with echoes of displaced tribes' oral histories. Demon, or the devil himself. German Baptist Brethren and Dunkard congregations in Frederick and Washington counties took this thing dead seriously as a demonic visitation. What freaked folks out was the description of it and its actions. To them, that was more than enough proof. This wasn't some animal. It was Satan or one of his lieutenants out hunting souls. Preachers thundered from the pulpit that the Snallygaster was divine punishment for a backsliding nation, a sign of the end times. You saw it, you'd better drop to your knees and repent quick, because the unrepentant were next on its menu. Barns got fresh, 7-pointed hex stars painted on them overnight. Old Pennsylvania Dutch wards against evil that suddenly felt very necessary. Church pews started filling up. Prayer meetings ran along. And more than one old Dunkard swore the only thing that ever sent it packing was loud scripture and a scattergun full of rock salt blessed by the elders. For those church folks in 1909 and 1932, this wasn't just a newspaper story. It was spiritual warfare with wings, and they weren't taking any chances. Interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial entity. Look, nobody in 1909 or 1932 had the vocabulary for this one. They called it a demon, a thunderbird, or just newspaper bullshit. But strip away the dated, old words and look at the raw pattern. The thing shows up out of nowhere, terrorizes 2 counties for a few months, vanishes completely for 23 years, then pops back with tentacles 1 decade and a zeppelin shape the next. Like it's phasing in and out of our reality on its own damn schedule. That's textbook high strangeness behavior. Same shit modern researchers slap on Mothman, skinwalkers, or aliens. Today's podcast crowd calls it an ultra-terrestrial or interdimensional entity fucking with Maryland for the hell of it. Back then, they didn't have the words, but the pattern was already there, staring them in the face. Maybe the old-timers weren't wrong. They just didn't know what the hell they were looking at. giant mutant moonshine bat. 1932's favorite bootlegger theory. All those hidden stills, leaking corn mash steam into South Mountain caves for a decade turned ordinary bats into jacked up, blood-slurping freaks. The Frog Hollow moonshiner who killed it swore the fumes birthed the damn thing in the first place. Newspapers printed it half as a joke, half hoping you'd believe it. In the end, the monster and the mash both got blown up by the feds. Poetic justice, Maryland style. Maryland never shook this thing off. Walk Frederick back roads today and you'll still see barns rocking 7-pointed stars. Old German hex signs slapped up in 1909 to keep the Snallygaster the fuck away. Some date to the 1700s, but plenty got fresh paint when the panic hit. They're folk art now, but they started as demon repellent. Livestock kept turning up drained dry through neck punctures. Classic vampire shit that had farmers sleeping with shotguns. Screeches tore through the night, loud enough to rattle windows. Visual proof? The 2002 pilot's blurry-ass photos and a whole lot of nothing else. No bones, no DNA, no bulletproof hide in a museum. Globally, every culture has its version. Giant birds, thunder beings, storm demons. Same protection symbols, same blood-drained animals. All of them born from big raptors, weird weather, and human imagination on overdrive. The Snallygaster lives right at that razor edge. Eyewitnesses from 1909 farmers to a modern pilot swear they saw the same winged nightmare. Details lining up across the century. Still, those hex stars guard barns. Festivals sell out, and pilots won't fly the Catoctons alone after dark. Flesh or fable, the bastard endures. Because every now and then, when the fog rolls thick and the mountains go quiet, something up there still answers with a locomotive scream. Do you like weird-ass monsters, government conspiracies, aliens, or UFOs? Then tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked-up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. So tell me, a real surviving pterodactyl? A thunderbird? An interdimensional being? Or just the wildest newspaper hoax ever? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're ready to crank that shit all the way up to 11, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.